Counselor, interrupted Representative Jorax of the Commerce Guild, are we to understand that Dr. Voss believes this signal was sent to humans? The word was spoken with obvious disdain, eliciting dismissive laughter from several delegations. Nyla stepped forward. I have submitted comprehensive evidence confirming that humans were not mythological beings, but an advanced spacefaring civilization that maintained outposts throughout what is now assembly space approximately 15 millennia ago. Fragments of ancient text and a bunker that could have been built by any lost civilization, dismissed Counselor Prax of the Scientific Directorate. Your academic desperation has led you to connect unrelated artifacts to support your human theory, and now you've activated technology you don't understand. The facility identified itself as human in origin, Nyla insisted. The language patterns, the technological signature, the genetic reference markers in the security systems all point to the same conclusion. Humans existed, they were here, and now we've called to them. And you believe they still exist after 15,000 years? High Counselor Threll asked, his tone gentler than the others but still skeptical. The facility was maintained in perfect condition by automated systems designed to last millennia, Nyla replied. A civilization capable of such engineering could certainly. She was interrupted by a commotion at the chamber entrance. An assembly fleet officer rushed in, bypassing security protocols, an unprecedented breach of council etiquette. High Counselors, the officer gasped. Long-range sensors have detected multiple objects entering assembly space from beyond the void barrier. They're moving at speeds our instruments can barely register. The chamber erupted in chaos. How many objects? Demanded Counselor Threll. 23 large vessels, sir. Unknown configuration. They're not responding to standard identification requests. Admiral Jordan of the Assembly Defense Fleet stood. I recommend immediate mobilization of all military assets if these are hostile forces. They're following the reverse trajectory of the beacon signal, the officer added. They're heading directly for the Proxima system. All eyes turned to Nyla, whose revelatory triumph had suddenly become a potential existential threat to the entire assembly. How long until they reach Proxima? Counselor Threll asked. At current velocity, less than 12 hours, sir. The following day, the Proxima system was in full crisis mode. Civilian evacuation ships clogged the main transit corridors, while the Assembly's military vessels formed a defensive perimeter around Proxima VII. Nyla had been kept under close observation, her expertise suddenly valuable to the same officials who had dismissed her research. The texts never suggested hostility, she explained to Admiral Jordan in the hastily established command center. All ancient references describe humans as guardians or allies to our ancestor species. Guardians against what? The Admiral asked, his bioluminescent crest pulsing with stress as he studied tactical displays. The texts are unclear. There are references to the darkness between stars and those who consume worlds, but nothing specific enough to identify a known threat. Well, something made them leave, Jordan noted grimly, and now they're coming back. The sensor officer's voice cut through their conversation. Admiral, the vessels have entered the system. They've dropped from faster-than-light travel much closer than should be possible. Defensive positions, Jordan commanded. All ships maintain discipline. The command center's main display activated, showing the approaching vessels. They were unlike anything in assembly records, sleek, angular craft with a distinctive aesthetic that somehow conveyed both function and beauty. They moved with precision that defied conventional physics, their formation adjusting seamlessly as they approached. They're scanning us, reported the sensor officer. Our systems can barely track their energy signatures. Are they deploying weapons? Jordan demanded. Unknown, sir. Our analysis can't identify most of their external structures. Suddenly, all communication systems in the command center activated simultaneously. Display screens flickered, then stabilized to show an image that caused Nyla to gasp. A bipedal being with pale skin and short copper-colored hair looked out at them, its face remarkably similar to the holographic images from the ancient facility. "Greetings, peoples of the Galactic Assembly," the being said in flawless modern standard. "I am Fleet Commander Elias Drake of the Earth Defense Force. We received your emergency beacon and have come as sworn by the ancient pact. Please respond." The command center fell silent, the reality of the situation suddenly crashing down on everyone present. The myths were real. Humans had returned, and judging by the technology that had brought them here so quickly, they were far more advanced than the Assembly had ever imagined. The return. The diplomatic reception hall aboard the Assembly flagship Harmonious, a chord hummed with tension as officials prepared for the most significant first contact in recorded history. High Counselor Threll stood with senior Assembly representatives, flanked by fleet officers and cultural specialists, including Dr. Nyla Voss, whose overnight transformation from academic pariah to essential expert still left her reeling. The human delegation materialized rather than docked, their transportation technology bypassing conventional airlocks and security measures as though they were trivial obstacles. 5 humans appeared in the center of the hall, led by Fleet Commander Elias Drake. Up close, the humans were even more fascinating than their holographic representations. They varied significantly in appearance, different heights, builds, skin tones, and facial features, yet all shared the same basic bipedal structure. Their movements were fluid and confident, their eyes constantly assessing their surroundings with what Nyla recognized as tactical awareness. "High Counselor Threll," Commander Drake said, stepping forward and offering a slight bow. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I apologize for the alarm our arrival has caused." The counselor's translator processed his words perfectly, though Drake was speaking in what must have been a human language. "Commander Drake," the counselor replied cautiously, "the Galactic Assembly welcomes you, though we admit to considerable surprise. Until recently, many believed humans to be merely mythological." A slight smile crossed Drake's face. "We are quite real, Counselor, and we have been away far too long." 15,000 years, according to our records, Nyla interjected. "I'm Dr. Nyla Voss, archaeologist. My team discovered and accidentally activated your beacon." Drake turned to her with evident interest. "Then we owe you our thanks, Doctor. The beacons were designed to activate only in specific circumstances, either by authorized personnel or in response to certain threats." "What threats?" Admiral Jordan asked bluntly. "Your arrival has caused considerable concern among our people." Drake exchanged glances with his delegation before responding. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately with your leadership." The meeting reconvened in the Council's secure chamber. Only the highest-ranking Assembly officials remained, along with Nyla, whose expertise on human historical references was deemed essential. 15,000 years ago," Drake began, activating a holographic display that filled the center of the room. "Humanity had expanded throughout this region of space, establishing peaceful contact with the early civilizations that would eventually form your assembly." The display showed star systems with human outposts and bases, many corresponding to worlds where Nyla had found fragmentary evidence. "We were not conquerors or colonizers," continued a human woman introduced as Admiral Farron Ortiz, whose dark skin contrasted with silver-streaked black hair. "Earth Defense Force served as protectors, maintaining peace and defending developing species from threats they couldn't yet face." "What threats?" Counselor Threll repeated Admiral Jordan's earlier question. Drake's expression darkened. "We called them the Void Harvesters. They emerged from the dark space beyond what you now call the Void Barrier, entities that consumed entire worlds, converting all organic and technological matter into energy to fuel their expansion." The hologram shifted to show shadowy, amorphous forms that seemed to absorb light around them. Nyla felt her heart's race as she recognized descriptions from ancient texts, the darkness between stars and those who consume worlds. "We fought them for 3 centuries, Drake continued. The conflict devastated hundreds of systems. Eventually, we developed technology that could repel them, driving them back beyond the barrier. But our victory came at tremendous cost." "If you defeated these," Harvesters, Admiral Jordan interjected. Why did humans abandon this region of space? Admiral Ortiz stepped forward. Our population had been decimated, Earth itself was nearly destroyed, and our scientists determined that the harvesters would return stronger and more numerous. We needed time to rebuild, to advance our technology, to prepare. So you retreated beyond the void barrier, Nyla realized aloud. You left the beacons as an early warning system. Drake nodded. The beacons were programmed to activate if they detected harvester energy signatures or if awakened by developing civilizations that might be threatened. Your activation of the Proxima VII beacon suggested one of those conditions had been met. We detected no such threat, Counselor Prax said dismissively. Dr. Voss's team accidentally triggered your ancient technology. Not accidentally, said the third human, a tall figure with pale gold skin introduced as Dr. Gio Nakamura, the delegation's chief scientist. Nakamura activated a personal device that projected data streams. The beacon's logs indicate it detected trace energy signatures consistent with Harvester Scout probe's 2 orbital cycles before Dr. Voss's team arrived. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. The discovery. The golden dust of Proxima VII swirled around Dr. Nyla Voss as she carefully brushed away centuries of sediment from what appeared to be a metallic panel. Her 4-fingered hands, covered in protective gloves, moved with practiced precision despite the excitement making her heart's race. 3 orbital cycles of excavation had led to this moment, a moment that could validate her most controversial theory. Dr. Voss, you should see this, called Zenith, her Quarellian assistant whose crystalline appendages glinted in the twin suns of the Proxima system. The scanner is picking up an energy signature beneath this formation. Nyla stood, her tall, slender frame stretching after hours of crouched work. Her pale blue skin, marked with the distinctive spotted pattern of her Lyran heritage, was coated with a fine layer of dust despite the protective field around the dig site. An energy signature? After 15,000 years. Nyla's violet eyes widened as she moved to examine Zenith's findings. The scanner displayed unmistakable evidence of power fluctuations beneath the ancient structure they'd been excavating. The Academic Council of Interstellar Studies had ridiculed Nyla when she proposed this expedition. Humans are bedtime stories, Professor Doraxian had sneered during her funding hearing. Next, you'll be searching for cosmic dragons and space sirens. Yet here she stood, on the verge of proving that the legendary protectors of the early galaxy, humans, had been real. Begin perimeter scanning, Nyla ordered the team of 12 archaeologists and technicians from various species across the Galactic Assembly. If there's active power, there may be automated security systems. And Zenith, inform High Archivist Tullian of our findings. Mark it urgent. As her team mobilized, Nyla returned to the panel she'd been cleaning. The symbols etched into its surface had initially appeared to be decorative, but now she recognized them as an ancient script mentioned in fragmented texts from the pre-assembly era. Nyla activated her translation matrix, loading the limited lexicon of presumed human language they'd assembled from scattered references across a dozen worlds. The device processed for several moments before presenting its best interpretation. Station Echo 7, Earth Defense Force, authorized personnel only. Earth, Nyla whispered the alien word. The mythical homeworld of humans, mentioned in ancient texts as a blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. According to legend, humans had once stood as guardians against a cosmic horror that threatened all sentient life. But they had disappeared, seemingly overnight, leaving only whispered stories and fragmentary references that evolved into myths over millennia. Most modern scholars considered them fictional, symbolic representations of ancient species' hopes for protection against the unknown. Dr. Voss, Zenith's voice carried unusual urgency. We've found an entrance. Nyla hurried across the excavation site to where several team members had uncovered what appeared to be a doorway embedded in the rocky outcropping. Unlike the dust-covered panel, this structure gleamed as though it had been polished recently. its metallic surface showing no signs of the 15 millennia that had supposedly passed since humans walked the galaxy. "Remarkable preservation," murmured Dr. Corax, the team's materials specialist. The portly Venturian ran a multi-spectrum analyzer over the doorway. "This alloy doesn't match anything in our database. It's resisting all forms of environmental degradation." Nyla approached the door, nodding a small panel to its right that glowed with a faint blue light. "A security system, still operational after all this time." "Impossible," Corax stated flatly. "No power source lasts 15,000 years." And yet, Nyla gestured to the glowing panel. The team fell silent, the magnitude of the discovery settling over them. If this facility had maintained operational systems for 15 millennia, the technological capabilities of these supposed humans far exceeded anything the Galactic Assembly currently possessed. Nyla studied the panel. It appeared to be a handprint scanner designed for a five-fingered species, another point in favor of the human theory, as most known sentient races had evolved with either 4 or 6 digits. "Should we attempt access?" Zenith asked. "This could be the greatest archaeological find in assembly history," Nyla replied, "but we should proceed with caution." She turned to the security specialist, a reptilian Draxian named Vorn. "Any signs of defensive systems?" Vorn shook his scaled head. "Nothing active, Doctor, but this technology is so alien to our sensors that I cannot be certain." Nyla considered their options. Protocol dictated they should wait for a specialized containment team when discovering potentially active alien technology. But that would mean days of delay, during which assembly officials, many skeptical of her human theory, might shut down the expedition entirely. "We're proceeding," she decided, "but with full biohazard protocols active. Vorn, you and your security team maintain position at the perimeter. Everyone else, full protective fields engaged." Nyla approached the handprint scanner, studying its contours. The ancient texts described humans as remarkably adaptable beings. Perhaps their security systems would recognize a close approximate. She removed her protective glove and placed her four-fingered hand on the panel, adjusting her position to cover as much of the five-fingered template as possible. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the panel flashed red, and an unfamiliar sound emanated from somewhere behind the door, a voice speaking in an unknown language. "Translation matrix is attempting to process," Zenith reported, monitoring the team's equipment. "It appears to be cycling through language patterns, perhaps trying to find a match." The red light continued to pulse, and then abruptly turned green. The voice spoke again, this time in a heavily accented but recognizable form of standard assembly. "Non-human genetic pattern detected. Emergency protocol activated. Please state nature of interstellar emergency." The team exchanged startled glances. Nyla stepped forward, her scientific training warring with the childlike awe that threatened to overwhelm her. "This is Dr. Nyla Voss of the Galactic Assembly. We are an archaeological expedition researching pre-assembly civilizations. We seek knowledge of the beings called humans who once occupied this facility." A pause, then. "Information request acknowledged. Activating historical database and emergency beacon. Stand by for facility access." The massive door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a pristinely maintained interior illuminated by soft white lighting that activated progressively as the door opened. "By the celestial confluence," breathed Corax, "it's perfect." The team cautiously entered, finding themselves in what appeared to be a monitoring station. Displays activated as they moved deeper into the facility, showing star charts, technical schematics, and data streams in the same ancient script they'd found outside. At the center of the room stood a three-dimensional projection of what could only be humans, bipedal beings with varied skin tones ranging from pale beige to deep brown, with peculiar fur-like growth on their heads, and for some, on their faces. "They were real," Zenith whispered. "All this time the legends were true." Nyla approached what appeared to be the main control console. Its design was elegant yet intuitive, suggesting advanced ergonomic understanding. As she neared, additional systems activated and a synthetic voice addressed them. Emergency beacon activated, transmitting distress signal on all Earth Defense Force frequencies. Warning: this action will alert all human forces to potential threat conditions at this location. Please confirm authorization. Nyla froze. Cancel beacon, this is not an emergency. Voice pattern unrecognized. Genetic signature negative for authorized personnel, defaulting to emergency protocols. Beacon transmission complete. A low hum built within the facility, and outside, Vorn reported that a section of the structure was rising from the ground, extending what appeared to be a transmission array. "What have we done?" Nyla whispered. 3 days later, Nyla stood before the High Council of the Galactic Assembly, the governing body representing 73 spacefaring species. The council chamber on the capital world of Harmonious Accord was filled beyond capacity, an emergency session called in response to her discovery and its aftermath. High Counselor Threll, an ancient meridian whose translucent skin revealed the complex neural networks beneath, addressed the assembled delegates. For those who have not reviewed the preliminary reports, Dr. Nyla Voss's archaeological team has inadvertently activated an ancient communication device on Proxima VII. This device appears to have transmitted a signal to unknown coordinates beyond the void barrier. Murmurs filled the chamber. The void barrier was the boundary of charted space, beyond which lay only mystery and darkness. "We don't suggest it," Drake replied grimly. "We know it. The patterns match precisely with their historical advance, scout probes preceding the main force by months or years, testing defenses and identifying resource-rich worlds." Admiral Jordan's bioluminescent crest flared with alarm. "If this threat is real, why have our long-range sensors detected nothing?" "Your technology wouldn't recognize the signatures," Nakamura explained. "Harvesters exist partially in subspace, making them virtually undetectable to conventional sensors until they fully materialize, usually as they begin consuming a planet." The assembly officials exchanged troubled glances. 15,000 years ago," Drake continued, "the early species of this region had no chance against the harvesters without our help. Today, the assembly has technology and resources we lacked then. Together, we might stand against what's coming." "Or this could be an elaborate deception," Counselor Prax argued. "A pretext for humans to re-establish presence in our territory, using myth and ancient threats to manipulate us." Drake's expression hardened. "If domination were our goal, Counselor, we could have achieved it without diplomatic overtures. The technological gap between us is substantial." No one in the chamber could dispute this. The human vessels had demonstrated capabilities far beyond anything the Assembly possessed. "What exactly are you proposing, Commander?" Threll asked. "An alliance," Drake replied simply. "We share our advanced defensive technology. You provide staging areas and resource support. Together, we prepare for the Harvester arrival." "And if we decline," Prax pressed. "Then we respect your sovereignty," Drake said quietly. "We'll establish a defensive perimeter beyond assembly space and do what we can to protect Earth and our colonies. But I won't deceive you. Without a unified defense, many assembly worlds will fall before the harvesters can be stopped." Admiral Jordan turned to Nyla. "Your research into human history, did you find any evidence supporting these claims about harvesters?" Nyla nodded slowly. "There are references across multiple ancient texts to a great darkness that consumed entire worlds before the Starwalkers, presumably humans, drove it back. The timing aligns with the period when human presence in our region suddenly ceased." The discussions continued for hours, with the human delegation providing historical records and technical data to support their claims. As the evidence mounted, even skeptical counselors like Prax fell silent. "We need time to consult with our member worlds," Threll finally said. "This alliance you propose would have profound implications for the Assembly." "I understand," Drake replied, "but I must emphasize that time is not abundant. Our long-range scouts have detected increased harvester activity. We estimate no more than 6 standard months before their main force reaches assembly space. As the meeting concluded, Nyla approached Drake. Commander, there's something I don't understand. If your beacons were monitoring for these harvesters, why didn't they activate when the probes appeared 2 cycles ago? Drake's expression was grim. They should have. The fact that they didn't until manually triggered suggests the harvesters have evolved, adapted to avoid our early warning systems. That's concerning. You think they've been studying your technology all this time? 15,000 years is a long time, Doctor. We've advanced considerably. It appears they have too. 3 months later, Nyla stood on the observation deck of Nexus Station, a massive joint human assembly facility constructed in orbit around Proxima VII. Below, the planet's surface was transformed by construction projects, defensive installations, research facilities, and spacecraft platforms rising where her archaeological dig had once been. The Assembly had voted, narrowly, to accept the human alliance. The subsequent technology transfer had already revolutionized assembly science, while human cultural exchange was reshaping societal understanding of their shared history. Quite a change from digging in the dirt, came a voice behind her. Admiral Ortiz approached, her uniform now bearing both human and assembly insignia. I sometimes miss the simplicity of archaeology, Nyla admitted. Uncovering the past seemed less daunting than facing this future. Ortiz nodded. Few archaeologists see their discoveries change the course of galactic history. You should be proud. Pride seems premature when facing extinction, Nyla replied. Not extinction, Ortiz corrected. Challenge. Humanity faced the harvesters before with far less. Now we have the combined knowledge and resources of 73 spacefaring civilizations. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent notification. Both women rushed to the command center, where Commander Drake and the Joint Defensive Council were already assembled. Long-range detection network has confirmed multiple subspace distortions at the edge of the void barrier, reported a human officer. Pattern matches harvester signatures with 97% confidence. Drake turned to the assembled leaders. It's beginning earlier than our projections. How many? Admiral Jordan asked, his crest pulsing with stress. Initial readings suggest hundreds of entities, the officer replied. Far more than historical records indicated in the previous incursion. Drake's expression was resolute. Implement Defense Protocol Omega. All civilian evacuations to designated safe worlds should commence immediately. First and second battle groups will deploy to the outer defense perimeter. As the command center mobilized, Nyla found herself standing beside Counselor Prax, whose opposition to the human alliance had gradually transformed into reluctant cooperation. It appears your humans were telling the truth, Prax conceded quietly. They're not my humans, Counselor, Nyla replied, but perhaps they're our only hope. On the main display, the first visual confirmation of the Harvester Vanguard appeared, shadowy, writhing forms that seemed to devour the very light around them, advancing inexorably toward assembly space. Commander Drake approached them, his face set with determination. Dr. Voss, your discovery awakened us to this threat just in time. Without you, the assembly would have faced this alone. And now, she asked. Drake's gaze returned to the advancing darkness on the display. Now we stand together as we should have 15,000 years ago. This time we don't retreat. This time we end the harvester threat forever. Around them, human and assembly personnel worked side by side, preparing defenses against the darkness approaching from beyond the void barrier. Ancient legends had become modern allies, and the galaxy's future hung in the balance. As Nyla watched the coordination between species that had been strangers mere months ago, she realized that her archaeological discovery had uncovered more than just humanity's past. It had revealed the galaxy's only path to survival. The void harvesters were coming, but this time they would find a united galaxy waiting for them,